And our first story, there's new management in place at indigenous Ghanaian bank Unibank. Accounting firm KPMG was appointed by the regulator, the Bank of Ghana, in the last 12 hours as the official administrator of the bank, in a move the Bank of Ghana says is to save the bank from an imminent collapse. Governor of the Central Bank, Dr. Ernest Addison, made the announcement earlier on Tuesday.
We have started to clean up the financial sector, and today we are announcing the continuation of that cleanup with the appointment of an administrator for Unibank by the Bank of Ghana. The bank has put Unibank under official administration to protect the stability of the financial sector. The official administrator will assume the responsibility of management and direct the bank in a manner that contributes to the stability of the bank and the safety of depositors' funds. Broadly, the role of the official administrator will include the following: take management control over the institution with powers that replace those of the shareholders, board of directors, and senior management. Be responsible for preserving the assets and liabilities of the bank, preparing a final resolution plan, and restructuring the bank under the oversight of the Bank of Ghana. Granted a specific time frame, that is 6 months, as prescribed by the Banks and Special Deposit Institutions Act, in which to thoroughly analyze the bank's condition and prepare a feasible rehabilitation plan. Handle all contacts with the media after the intervention period. And lastly, ensure that the bank remains open to maintain confidence in the banking system by allowing depositors access to their funds and other banking services. We are not liquidating the bank, we are saving the bank, we are just replacing the management team, so it's going to be an ongoing bank. And at the end of the day, we expect that the new team there, KPMG, if they are able to turn the bank around, we will have to ensure that it's given back to Ghanaian investors. We are not going to obviously approve a transaction which would mean handing Unibank to foreign investors.
Then he went on to paint a rather gloomy and distressing picture of the banking sector since he took over as the central bank governor, and explained that a number of measures have since been put in place to return the sector to good health.
Out of a total of 566 microfinancial institutions in 2018, 211 are active but distressed or folded up. Also, out of a number of 141 rural and commercial banks, 37 are active but distressed. In total, it is estimated that 202 out of 702 institutions in the subsector, representing nearly 40%, are at risk. You would realize by now that poor banking practices, coupled with weak supervision and regulation by the Bank of Ghana, has significantly undermined stability of the banking and the non-bank financial institutions.
And JoyNews discovered that hours after that announcement, armed security personnel were deployed to some of Unibank's branches. Charles Aite was at the Kokomemle branch just before the close of the news day.
Scene was heavily guarded by police officials here. I don't even know whether we could zoom into what some of them, fully guarded armed men, armed police officials in that very regard. But just before we, had this very interaction, officials have stated that they are not just going to be speaking to us, but of course, security keeps getting intensified right here. Workers of the bank are currently tight-lipped on the situation, but we have been seeing management of the bank going in and coming out. I believe they're currently having a closed-door emergency meeting following this very breaking news story.
It should be noted that the imminent takeover of Unibank had been speculated for some time now, and it comes a few weeks after the bank announced a purported takeover of the Agricultural Development Bank.
We all saw what happened about a week ago. I think the Unibank announced that there were about 4 or 5 other investors in ADB that were pledging their shares to Unibank with a view to selling those shares to recapitalize. It turned out that they did not even have approval for some of those acquisitions. And as you know, these are things that are within the realm of the SEC. We are not sure how long this tussle will go on. We are not sure even if Unibank would realize any resources from those shares. So I think that one could safely rule out using those particular shares to recapitalize the bank. It also makes assumptions about the share price, which nobody knows. I believe they suspended trading of the shares.
Well, away from the banking sector, the minority in parliament is warning Ghana could become a target for terrorist organizations if the U.S. military is allowed to operate in the country. Government is seeking to reach a decision with the U.S. to have a base in Ghana where the U.S. military forces could be deployed. Defense Minister Dominic Nittiwul on Tuesday laid an agreement between the two countries on the floor of Parliament. The deal will ultimately allow the U.S. military access to several facilities in Ghana, as well as wide-ranging tax exemptions. Joseph Opoku Gakpo has more.
The deal will permit the U.S. military to use Ghana for the deployment of forces across the sub-region. Speaker Professor Mike Okoye has referred the agreement to the Defense and Interior Committee, as well as the Constitution and Legal Affairs Committee of Parliament, despite protests by the majority and minority.
The Committee on Defense and Interior. Yes, Honourable.
Because and Foreign Affairs, because it appears it's got some dimension beyond defense.
The mere fact that it is.
If respectfully you can add the leadership of the Foreign Affairs Committee to that committee, I think that Foreign Affairs obviously has a role to play in that. So I'm making that humble application.
Please, can you save me that temptation? The essence of this matter is a legal document. Those in charge of legal matters should join Defense and Interior.
Minority MP on the Foreign Affairs Committee, Dr. Clement Apak, is worried the agreement could expose Ghana to terrorism.
If you look at that document and you scrutinize it word by word, page by page, section by section, it is clear that we must tread cautiously. This bargain is going to shortchange Ghanaians. And I believe that if Ghanaians thought that bringing in the Gitmo 2 was going to be a magnet to attract terrorists, then beginning tonight, they should start wailing and crying. Because these are the facts on the ground. And the evidence is abound across the world for us to draw this conclusion.
That this will attract terrorist activity?
It is obvious that it is going to. I mean, look at even the African continent. We saw what happened in Kenya. We saw what happened in Burkina Faso. Do you know the common factor, denominator? And look at every other part of the world where the Americans have had a base. If there has not been a surge in extremist activity. And these are the issues we are raising. And I'm so sad that the Speaker chose not to let this come or allow the Foreign Affairs Committee to be a part of it. When indeed, if you look at the memo, the Minister for Foreign Affairs is one of the consultative ministers in as far as these background negotiations were concerned. So if it was prudent to have included the Minister for Foreign Affairs in the background discussions with the Americans, why is it not prudent to have allowed the Committee on Foreign Affairs to be a part of scrutinizing this before it gets on the floor?
This is mind-blowing. I can't just believe that in Ghana today, Kwame Nkrumah's Ghana, any government can even think about this. But I will not want to be in a hurry to tell what will happen. But we are not going to a crash meeting. We think that this is mind-blowing. I heard the Minister of Defense on Joy FM this morning. I just want to beg him. He should go and look at the definition of military base. Whether that doesn't qualify as military base. He should just go and look at the definition of military base. To the extent that they can build structures, demolish structures, and do other things. He should just go and look at the definition of a military base. But surely you are going to hear from us comprehensively on this.
but Defense Minister Dominic Nitiwul disagrees.
Americans today are currently engaging in fighting terrorists in the Sahel region. It is our duty as West Africa to do that, not Americans. But they are there. They lost over 4 soldiers the last time, if you remember. It's our duty as West Africa or as Africa to fight terrorists. But the American soldiers are busily there fighting. So they are saying that even if it means using the facilities in Ghana to store equipment to be able to go and fight those terrorists, they will do it. It's because of people like APAC and all those who seek to heighten tension when there's none that will draw anybody's attention to Ghana. In any case, I have said something. America has an embassy in Ghana, don't they? It's the biggest embassy in West Africa, American embassy in Ghana. They have all the facilities that they have. Why has it not attracted terrorists? America has this agreement with 51 countries, including Senegal. Has it attracted terrorists anywhere? Don't let us invite trouble for ourselves by congesting things that are not there. Are you getting me right? Let me give you an example. God forbid if there's a terrorist attack today at Kotoka International Airport and we have a few American Marines around, you think they're going to sit there and fold their hands? You think that if America has some facility at the Kotoka International Airport, you think they will not also help to fortify security around Kotoka International Airport? There are benefits to both nations.
Joseph Opoku-Gakpo, JoyNews, Parliament House, Accra.
I know per the rules when you have ruled.
The Central Regional Police Command has arrested 5 suspected armed robbers at Gomapotsin in the Central Region. The police arrested the 5 at various hideouts and retrieved pistols, other locally manufactured guns and other equipment used by the suspects in their escapades. Addressing the media in Cape Coast on Tuesday, the Regional Commander, Paul Awini, assured that the public and criminals in the region will be arrested from their hideout and made to face the law. Richie Kojonyanko has more.
According to the police, on the 29th of January this year, at about 6:30 p.m., 3 men armed with pistols and knives attacked a man in his residence at Gomapotsin. The robbers demanded all monies and other valuables the man had, including any ammunition if he had any. The victim in the encounter resisted the armed men and struggled with them, but was overpowered and was shot on the right eye, which led to the amputation of his leg. About a week ago, acting on the intelligence received from the newly created Intelligence Directorate at Gomapotsin, the police swung into operation and went into a farm settlement upon a tip-off and smoked the robbers from their hideouts. Central Regional Police Commander DCOP Paul Awini addressed the media.
We conducted a police operation in a location around Amenfi Boazi, in a farm settlement where Fulanis reside. We arrested a 45-year-old Fulani man whom intelligence indicated is the kingpin, one of the kingpins of the robberies that have been happening around. He led us to another location around Gomapotsin, and we arrested 4 other suspects who are believed to be accomplices in these robberies. The ages of these other 4 suspects are 34, 25, 35, and 37 years.
The regional police commander also revealed the ammunition of the armed robbers used in carrying out the operations that are currently in the custody of the police.
A search in the home at Gomapotsin led to the recovery of the following items: 1 foreign pistol, 1 locally manufactured pistol loaded with 1 cartridge, SB, and an SB shotgun also, 6 new wax prints, 2 laptops and their accessories, 2 sharp cutlasses, 3 mobile phones, 1 empty BB cartridge shell.
The police administration is assuring members of the public not to entertain any fear that their identities would be revealed should they give the police some information. All suspects rounded up by the police would be remanded into police custody to assist the police in further investigations. Richard Kwejunyako, Joy News, Cape Coast.
The Commission on Human Rights and Administrative Justice, CHRAJ, is backing calls for government to decriminalize petty offences such as prostitution, trespassing and noise-making. The Commissioner of CHRAJ, Joseph Whittal, says many offenders of petty crimes are left in jail just because they are unable to pay hefty fines. This, he says, is one reason why Ghana's prisons are often choked. Joseph Whittal was speaking at a roundtable conference organized by the Commonwealth Human Rights Initiative here in Accra. Jacqueline Johnson-Quays now reports.
Ghana has some of the most congested prisons in the world. A report by the Commonwealth Human Rights Initiative suggests Ghana's prisons are congested, partly due to convictions of people for petty offences. Many of the inmates will have to serve long sentences for offences such as general nuisances to public order, trespassing, insulting the national flag, habitual drunkenness, and unlawful assembly, among others. But the Commission on Human Rights and Administrative Justice, CHRAJ, says it is time for a turnaround.
So decriminalizing those petty offences is meant to rid the statute book of, quote unquote, from the research of the research report, of offences that seem to be targeting poverty. Prostitution and others could be regulated, but in Ghana it is an offense. But if, in your own way, somebody has a way of living, why don't you discuss and see the possibility of making sure that that is regulated? In other countries it is done. There are quite a number of offenses like that. So the purpose of the research is to prod our thinking. Can we, in the modern day of Ghana, begin looking at the laws that we inherited from the colonial regime, which no longer serve their purpose? Or even if they do, they seem to be discriminating against particularly poor sections of the community. That is what this whole exercise is about.
Human Resource Executive at CHRAJ, Dr. Isaac Annan, says the report on decriminalizing petty offences will soon be presented to Parliament.
Attempts at decriminalizing and declassifying crimes, what we call normally petty offences. So my presentation sought to look at the international and regional legal framework, what we call the Tokyo rules, as well as the UN minimum standard for treatment of prisoners, and also what we call the Luanda guidelines in terms of how prisoners or persons under detention can be dealt with by the authorities, especially police and prison officers, and also talk about the conditions which should be present within the prison or detention facilities, especially dealing with the dignity and health of persons who are incarcerated.
Human rights advocates say a paradigm shift is needed to improve Ghana's justice delivery system in order to protect the lives of vulnerable people.
And for a group calling itself the Concerned Small-Scale Miners Association is worried some foreigners keep mining illegally despite the ban on small-scale mining. It has also expressed its resentment at the first Deputy Speaker of Parliament, Joe Osei-Wusu's recent comments that military should shoot to kill any small-scale miners seen at any mining site. One spokesperson of the group, Benjamin Annan, says they are prepared to resist any oppression as they plan to go back to the mines if no positive news comes to them. He spoke at a news conference in Kumasi.
If we do not hear anything positive from the government by the end of this month, we would be left with no alternative than to order all our members to go back to their mining site to resume work since our licenses are still valid. We have taken note of the directive by the first Deputy Speaker of Parliament, Honorable Joe Osei-Wusu, for military personnel to shoot and kill any small-scale miner. We are Ghanaians by blood and by law, and we are prepared to resist any oppression and fight for our right to work and survive. The government of Ghana has demonstrated its incompetence in fighting against illegal mining and has shown its willingness to sacrifice our business to save its face from embarrassment. We therefore appeal to all Ghanaians, the international community, civil society, and the government of Ghana to avail their minds and attention to the urgency of this matter before it gets out of hand.